Hello everyone, welcome back to Olsen Cafe. Now today's lesson we are going to talk about negative angles. So why does tangent A minus 180 degrees is equals to tangent A? Now this is not a trick, right? It is all about understanding negative angles and the ASTC rule. So for all students who are taking calculus, right, this is something very important for you to take note. All right, so in this video, we will explore how angles are measured clockwise, what happens when you subtract 180 degrees, and how it will affect the value of the tangent function. So don't just memorize, learn why this identity holds true and with clear visuals and real understanding. Right? I will also be showing you how we can apply this understanding to solve a very common question in the GCE examination. So do stay tuned. So over here, all right, we see the ASTC rule. All right, this is something very basic that every student must be very familiar with. All right, with this ASTC, all right, you can remember it by all science teacher crazy, or a more common one will be add sugar to coffee. All right, I know in some countries, all right, they use right cast, which is CAST. Yeah, but for me personally, I like all science teacher crazy. I thought this is funny and this is cute, all right, for us to easily remember this. Now, what is important in this ASTC rule, all right, is that you need to identify the four quadrants, all right, whereby, which is the first quadrant. So in this first quadrant, all are positive simply means that all trigo ratio will have a positive value, right? Whereas in the second quadrant, only sine function will be positive, right? Cosine and tangent will give you a negative values. All right, and then in the third quadrant, all right, we will have tangent positive and sine and cosine negative. And the last quadrant, which is the fourth quadrant, we will get cosine is positive and sine and tangent will be negative. Now, this is something really basic, right? Like I said, right, that all of us will need to know. And beside the ASTC rule, all right, this is something whereby we all need to know as well. All right, and we already know that for positive angle, all right, it will be measured in the clockwise direction. All right, hence that's how we derive the first, second, third, and fourth quadrant. Now, what is important to take note is the negative angles. Now, do remember negative angles, all right, will be measured, all right, moving in the anti-clockwise direction. However, even it is moving in the clockwise direction, all right, we do know that the quadrants remain the same. All right, so this is something very important to take note. All right, coming up, we are going to practice how can we apply, right, the positive and negative angles and to identify the quadrant. So over here, we have 6 examples, all right? Let us see how we can identify, all right, the quadrants and practice this important skill. All right, so let's take a look at example number 1. So over here, we have 135 degrees, which is obtuse. All right, so we plot the angle, all right, we know that it will lie in the second quadrant. All right, in the second example, we have 210. So in this case, this angle, all right, lies in the third quadrant. And the third example, we have 300 degrees. So over here, all right, if we look at it, the angle actually lies in the fourth quadrant. All right, so it is easily done with positive angle. Now, how about the negative angles? All right, so we look at example number 4. We have negative 110 degrees. So in this case, right, negative angle measured in the clockwise direction. So in this case, right, this angle actually lies in the third quadrant. So similarly, we have 210, right, negative 210. So we know that this angle will lies in the second quadrant. And the last angle, we have negative 310. So in this case, while the values seem big, right, but because it's a negative angle, all right, we do know that this angle will actually lies in the first quadrant. So with the understanding of ASTC rule and the negative angles, right, let us take a look at this identity. All right, why is it that tangent A minus 180 degrees, right, is equals to tangent A? All right, now let us take a look. If A is acute, all right, that means A has to be less than 90 degrees. Right, so if A is less than 90 degrees and when we subtract it by 180 degrees, we do know that, right, this angle will give us a negative value. All right, with the negative value, let's take a look. All right, let's take a look at the quadrant. All right, so where is A minus 180 degrees? All right, you notice that it will give us a obtuse angle. Since it will be a negative angle, so which means I will end up at the third quadrant. All right, so which means this will give us A minus 180 degrees, whereby, all right, angle A, it is the acute angle, which is over here. All right, so let's recall, all right, the ASTC rule. So with the ASTC rule, all right, we do know that since the angle lies in the third quadrant, we do know that tangent is positive in this quadrant, right? So if tangent is positive in this quadrant, and then we are able to express this tangent of this obtuse angle, and we rewrite it into tangent of a basic angle, right? And therefore, we will have this relationship. So therefore, we do know that this is true, all right, because tangent is positive. Yeah. Now, so since you are convinced now, all right, let us see how we can actually apply this knowledge, all right, in solving a very common question in the examination. All right, so assuming now, all right, that I gave you sine A is equals to P. All right, so I want to find the value of tangent A minus 180 degrees. Now, how can we do that? All right, so given questions like this, so what I'm going to do is I am going to draw a right angle triangle. All right, and then with this right angle triangle, I'm going to apply what is the sine formula. So sine do give us, right, opposite over hypotenuse. So therefore, I do know that opposite over hypotenuse, I fill in the side. And with this, using Pythagoras theorem, I'm able to work out, all right, the adjacent side, all right, which is square root of 1 minus p squared. Now, with this, all right, in order for me to find tangent A minus 180 degrees, all right, this is actually the same as tangent A. So which means all I need to do is I just simply need to work out the tangent of A. All right, and what is tangent of A? It is simply opposite over adjacent, all right, the twa. So applying this, therefore, I am able to derive my answer, which is P over square root of 1 minus P squared. All right, so this is how we easily get the answer, and this is done. So as you can see, right, by understanding negative angles and how to identify the quadrant, right, we can simply say goodbye to all these formulas, all right? So very often you get to see this formula in the textbook or even on the website, all right? So there is no need to memorize these complicated and confusing signs, all right? Always keep it simple and understanding, all right, the concept behind, and you can solve any questions. Hope you find this video useful. All right, do like and subscribe if this helped you. All right, do share it with your friends too. I will see you in my next video. Bye.